In this video, we're going to be installing Ikea kitchen cabinets, and we're doing an island as well. So we're not going to waste a whole lot of time. We're just going to jump right into it because in about 2 hours, I got someone coming here to measure my countertops. We got to be done for them. So what do you need to know about installing an Ikea kitchen is this. You need a pencil. You need it to be sharp. You need a level. I would suggest having a laser level for that situation. Something like this, right, from Firecore. Brilliant little model. This drops lasers in every different direction to help keep everything level and square. What I mean by that is when you turn this on and hit the buttons, okay, I get a line this way, and I can add a line this way, and I can add a line this way. This gives you the ability to do just about anything you can desire when it comes to leveling and installing your cabinets. One of the benefits of Ikea, of course, is that they assemble really easy. So we're not really going to cover too much of that. Matt's going to assemble one while I'm installing the rails on the wall, and we're going to show you all of that. But if you can't read the instructions and follow the Ikea cabinet installation instructions, maybe renovating your own kitchen isn't in your wheelbox, because this is not that difficult. They've made it so simple nowadays, so trust me, you can just follow the instructions. They're incredibly clear. We're going to go ahead and show you the system for installing the cabinets and some tips and tricks so that when you're doing it, you only do it once. You don't have to go back to the beginning. You're not going to run into problems where the feet won't work, where everything's going to be off level and out of square. So let's just get started. So in order to install an Ikea kitchen, you really only need a few items. You need your cabinet boxes. At this point, you don't even have to pick out all your selections for your drawers and your door systems and how they all operate, because every cabinet box is designed to accept any finishing. So what I like to do is install all my boxes first, order in my countertop guy to come and do the measuring and get that in production, and then you can have a semblance of what your kitchen is going to look like. You can sit back and have a conversation about how things are going to function, what kind of drawer and door systems you want to install at that point. Then you can go back to the store and buy all those particulars or even have it delivered. Now, you need to have the feet with you in order to start. And for some reason, everything from Ikea is glued shut. All right, which means you're going to need a knife to open up the boxes. Now, these are adjustable leveling feet. If you've never seen this before, it's 2 parts. You stick them together, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but these are brilliant. Now, the boxes, like I said, everything is glued together, so you want to use a sharp knife. Resist the temptation to cut through the surface. They pack these boxes with the finished product right to the edges, okay? There you go, see that? There's your finished panel. If you start cutting the box, it doesn't take much before you're taking a chunk out of a finished panel. And you never really know if that's the part that's going to be visible or not. All right? Now, if you break the box, you're going to have a mess. But if you cut it like this off the side, with a sharp knife, would have been a better demonstration if the knife was sharper, eh? Then you can open it up. Now you've got a working surface. This will keep your cabinet safe from all the dust and dirt and all that kind of jazz, right? So you just take this panel, you flip it over. That would be the back. You take this panel and flip it over. Now you can open up the book, follow the instructions, build it all right here. Piece of cake. Ikea comes with this brilliant rail system. And what you do is you attach this to the wall, and then there's hardware on the cabinets that you actually hang the cabinets off the rail, and then you attach feet on the front in order to level it all. Now, in the instructions, it comes with recommended heights for the different kinds of cabinets you're installing. So you use the rail for the base and for the uppers, and for, let's say, they have these different height situations for fridges and stove cabinets, right? So all of that information is in there. Unfortunately for us, or fortunately for you, we have a really difficult house to work in because our floor is incredibly not level. Now, I have an option here. I could have primed it and put in floor leveler and then done the kitchen cabinets, but the truth is I'm on a bit of a time crunch here. The timeline on this job depends completely on getting the countertops ordered and delivered on site. The best case scenario is usually about a week, maybe 10 days. And in some cases, it could be 3 to 6 weeks if you are silly enough not to order and purchase your countertops in advance before you have them come measured. Now, before we can put this rail on the wall, I need to determine one quick little thing. Let's head down to the floor. what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find my high point in the room. So I'm just gonna use this huge 6-foot level here, and I'm gonna throw it around in a couple of different locations. That's my high point here. Your cabinet's going back there. That's falling away. So my high point is right here on my island, which means that since all of these cabinets on the island are sitting on these adjustable feet, I have a limitation, right? Here we go. I can only go this close to the ground, worst case scenario. If I set my cabinets based on the regular traditional installation system and I start in that corner and work across the room, I'm gonna be way too low when I come to the island for these feet to be even adjustable. So what I wanna do is I wanna find the lowest point possible for this kitchen based on the highest part of the floor. That guarantees that every other cabinet can have the feet adjusted down to meet the floor from that point, because we're hanging on a bar, all right? Just gotta think a little upside down here and make our life easy. So in the hardware that comes with the boxes, you get these mounting brackets, and they have a rail system that goes on the wall. And what that does, these brackets sit right in there, and your whole counter is hanging off these rails. And they're about 1/4 of an inch from the top of the cabinet, okay? So when we're measuring, we actually want to measure the screw lines that we want to use here, so we can set our location. So what I'm going to do, just to give you an idea of what we're looking at, we're trying to determine the height that that bar sits at. If we consider the top of the cabinet is going to be our height, it makes the math really simple. We're going to be 1/4 of an inch higher off the floor than we need to be, which is plenty because we have all that adjustability in the feet. So we're going to just create a laser line now that represents the shortest point in this kitchen, right? Based on this. Now, if I had my laser on an adjustable stand, I'd be able to raise it and lower it until it hit this point. That'd be simple. Unfortunately, we're using this stand for something else today, so it's not available. So if you don't have a stand for your laser level, then you're gonna have to get creative like this too. Find something solid back there. Measure up to that line. 7 inches, okay? So now that line that's thrown across the back of this wall is 7 inches higher than where my rail goes, all right? So we're gonna take our pencil out and we are going to just mark that down. -7 inches. So from this point, I can just take my measuring tape now, run around the room on this laser line and make marks, and I'm good to go. Now, because these things are so long and they're made of solid steel and they have a contour detail, they don't warp, you can just make this mark at 2 points where you're going to be screwing the cabinets to the wall. There we go. I have a screw line here, -7 inches. Right there, right there. Now, in the last couple minutes we've been using the laser level. Matt's already done building this cabinet. A couple more details left. Make sure that when you're nailing these in, you follow the dotted line to set your nails, and always put these little bumpers on. That'll set the depth at the back, especially for upper cabinets. Brutally crucial here. All IKEA cabinets have a finished panel that go on the sides, so the cabinets themselves will be raised off the wall. That's normal, so expect it. Go ahead and finish that up. So when you get your rail, IKEA has all these little clips that are sitting in the rail like this. And the idea is you're screwing them in, right? That's nice. Resist the temptation to do that. It's actually designed to go this way. So take them all out. And you can put these in when you're ready to use them. They go like this for a reason. You can get that screw in the wall, and then you can still slide it left or right to raise or lower the bar just to get that perfect lever line. That's generally for people who are using, not using lasers, but the location that we're putting this rail, we measured, goes right to the top of this. And I want to put my screws through these holes into the frame. They should be measured off every 16 inches in a perfect world. So hopefully this works on my old house framing. What we're going to do, sorry, make this simple. I'm going to drop this down about 1/2 inch on my stud line. And this is why it's so important when you're doing this kind of thing. Install your cabinets before you prime your walls. You can still see all your screw holes. All right, now, I know, because I did all my own wiring and mechanical, that all my wiring is not going to be where my cabinets are installed. I intentionally run my wiring from the ceiling or from the floor straight up, okay, never drilling through the joists, so that you'll never run into this problem. and about a 1/2 inch below. All right. And we're going to throw this on. Oh, yes. That is a good day. Okay. Now, here we go. We're going to slide that on, and you see how I can move that clip and adjust it, and then it'll sit perfectly where I want it. Okay, in the construction world, each of these screws carries 80 pounds. It's not a lot. So if you get enough screws in a situation, it's more than enough. So do the math for yourself. But if I get 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 studs on a rail, 5 screws is 400 pounds. If you're putting granite or quartz counters on there, you got 500 holding on the back wall, plus the feet. If you can't add extra screws, what you can do is this. You can also take an extra screw directly underneath, all right? And add additional support using the screw. And set it right there. Problem solved. Now you got 160 pounds per stud. That just made 1,000 pounds of strength on the back wall, plus the feet, which distributes the other half of the weight. So now you got 2,000 pounds on a, what is that, an 8-foot length? Yeah. The counters aren't that heavy, so you're gonna be fine. Check this out. Here my stud is offline, so I'm putting my screw in an angle so I can catch the back side of it. Right there, and I'll add one underneath for good measure. Nice. This is another good lesson. Why we install all of our stuff 16 on center. Because everything you buy and install is designed according to that. If you start getting too creative on your job site, you're going to cause yourself a world of hurt. Okay, so I mentioned earlier there's just a few steps. So step 1 is build your cabinet. Step 2, drop a laser line and put on your bar. Step 3, hang the cabinets. We're almost done. So the kitchen design here is like this. In the middle, we're going to put a stove. We have a 36-inch stove. This is my center line. I've already marked it off, right? So 18 inches off of that. I need my clearance to here, right? So I'm going to drop my laser line on here for the back wall. Bam. Now, one thing to keep in mind, Ikea kitchen cabinets, there's a side, there's always a full panel gable that goes right to the floor. Let me show you that. So here's our cabinet. There's the sticker. And it gets installed this way. It's good to know how these things get done. And you'll notice that this panel is a lot taller than the cabinet. Ultimately, when you're doing a kitchen install, you're always going to be measuring from the cabinet to the floor, translating that information and cutting the bottom off. But you need to know that that's going to be the ultimate width of the cabinet. So I'm actually going to go like this and then slide the cabinet over to into position. Now I've got my cabinet in position. I'm going to slide this one in position. Okay, perfect position. Now I'm going to put this away for later until I'm ready to cut it. You're going to see the really only limitation with IKEA kitchens is that when you're in a defined space like wall to wall, the cabinets that are available do not always come in the right combination of measurement to get close to the wall. In this situation, I've got 4.5 inches to the wall. I'm going to use just a regular panel to close that gap. It's not the end of the world. It'll look just fine. It's very normal in kitchens to have a couple of extra inches on each side, top and bottom, whatever, and we finish everything with a filler strip. So don't be worried about it because you're getting such an easy installation. The only way to take advantage of that space is to go to custom cabinets. As soon as you make that switch, you're adding thousands and thousands of dollars to the bill. So if you're going to use IKEA, it's because it's a price point, not because it's always the best option. But for most people, this is a fabulous quality kitchen at the right price. So I know what everybody's saying. They're all thinking, well, what about this thing in the back here? Here's what I do. I am not cutting this off until I am completely satisfied. I've got everything locked down, no more changes, no possibility of changes. I'm leaving these rails extended where the stove goes, and I'm just gonna take my grinder when I'm done and zip that off. It'll be a little bit ugly, but it won't matter because that end panel will cover it. That is the secret. So we're gonna just stay there for now. We're gonna get the other side set up. As soon as we have that done, we'll get on with the island. So the secret to doing a kitchen installation is keeping everything exactly level. Having center lines off the most important features in the room, like the stove, that's my center line. This line I could actually draw on with a black marker because I don't want that leaving ever. Now I'm going to measure this off. We set this one based on the laser line before. And it's exactly 18 7/8 to the cabinet. Part of the reason for that is that the new gable end, it's 5/8 thickness, okay? So you add that as well, and it leaves just a hair, like maybe a 1/16 left for the stove. So on the other side, we're going to measure that over. Bam, 7/8 right there. And that is right on the money. Now we have the same distance from the cabinets to that center line. And if we add them together, we have a 36-inch stove. 2 times 5/8 is 1 1/4. That takes me to 37 1/4. And that still gives me 1/4 of an inch between the stove and the cabinet, which is just perfect because my countertop can be measured to overhang that gap just a little bit, and it'll look really nice from the outside. Now, if we were to measure the total gap here, 37 3/4. Off the front, 37 1/2. Interesting, isn't it? 37 3/4 on the back and 1/2 on the front. Now, when I add both of my gables, 36 for the stove, 37 1/4, that leaves me only 1/8 of an inch on the front, but it leaves me 1/4 of an inch on the back. My wall obviously has a bow to it. A lot of houses have bowed walls. So when you use these laser lines on this track system, measure the back, get both sides of the appliance installed, and then double check the front for clearance. Because if you only measure the back and you have a bow, you might not be able to get your appliance put in place after the fact. And that's one of those things that happens all the time in a kitchen renovation. People come in to do the appliance at the very, very end, and there's not enough room, and then you gotta go right back to the beginning. Oh, that's a nightmare that I've seen happen more than once on a job site. That's just poor planning. So to summarize, have a center line, measure from the center line to both directions, double check your measurement overall, adding all your materials, so your appliance plus your end gables, plus that 1/8 of an inch that you're looking for. Make sure that that gap is consistent all the way across to the front, all right? And if it isn't, make that adjustment now based on the front, and then the countertop guys can come and measure, and they can make that seam at the back fit perfectly. Now look at this. This wall has got a bit of a bow. When I put the cabinets together up front here, it opens up in the back. That's a telltale sign of a bow, okay? Don't worry about that. You don't have to force that close. The only thing you have to do is make sure that the fronts are closed and perfect every time. Whew! Now, those cabinets are basically installed. We do want to get the feet on, but that's not as important for measuring the countertops. So we're going to get into installing the island now, because that has to be done before they get here, or I get in a lot of trouble and I have to pay for the delivery out here. And then they're going to make me wait another week before they come back. We actually took one of the light stands apart and saved this. It's a universal thread. The fire core, my DeWalt laser, they all have the same thread size, so you can stick them on top of these adjustable stands. This is brilliant, right? We just stick that on. Oh, nice guess. Wow. That's almost perfect. Okay, now here's the thing, Matt. We have Formica countertops going on the back with a build out, which makes it 5/8 and 3/4 inch and 1/4. The quartz on the front here is a different height. Huh?
What's that?
The quartz is only 3/4.
Oh yeah?
So I need to set these cabinets 1/2 an inch higher so that the countertops are the same height. We're gonna throw an extra 1/2 an inch on. All right? And if that's not a perfect 1/2 an inch, that's okay. So I know that the instructions don't call for it, but I always love to put one screw in these feet because we're gonna be flipping around, possibly lifting and moving. And these holes aren't always drilled with so much precision that the feet sometimes pop out. It's a real pain in the butt. So by doing this, it avoids that problem. When I'm doing an island cabinet like this, you have the option. Can I have one of these plates? Here, I'll show you. You can install it both ways. So these holes are here. You can install the plate to go across and bridge the gap, right? And you can install it this way or this way, and that puts the foot exactly under both gable ends, okay? Now you can cheat like this, right, when you're installing, especially along the walls. But in this situation, we want to put these feet on this way and this way, okay? Allow this little mechanism here to transfer the weight from the gable onto the foot and put 4 feet on each box. And here's why. The reason I want all 4 feet on each box, Matt, is because when I'm moving these into position, left, front, right, back, making adjustments based on the room, right? If one's sitting on the other, it's always falling over, chipping corners, causing damage, breaking feet. It's a pain in the butt. So let's make them completely independent. Throw in 1 screw every time you install one. You use a 3/4 inch screw that has a nice flat head on it, okay? So it has a definite stop. These panels are made of 3/4 inch. There's a lot of companies out there that make knockdown cabinets and you can assemble it yourself and it's only 5/8. But the Ikea 3/4 inch panel is a step above in quality. It's a lot heavier cabinet and it holds the screw a lot better. So, lovely to do. Love me some Phillips screws. Have I ever mentioned how much I hate Phillips screws? Okay, so when you're installing the feet, this little base foot thing, it's kind of important, okay? Because it actually sets the depth for the toe kick after the fact. So don't throw these out. These are vitally important. And then there's a cap for the foot that snaps in as well. So install all of that, but just put the base foot right up near the top. And when all that's put together, then we'll flip them over and stick them in place. These little things here, it's part of a clip system. The Ikea come with toe kicks that have a track system that these actually, you slide it in and you turn it and it locks in place. And then that track system will actually snap onto the feet and they're adjustable. Okay, so you don't have to nail the whole fronts and you can pull them off to do maintenance or cleaning or get at your mechanical or electrical. It's brilliant to have. So put them back in the box. My number 1 tip for working with Ikea, every time you have something left in the box, throw it back in a base cabinet so you don't lose your hardware. All right, so while Matt's finishing putting the feet together, I'll just discuss real quick why we chose Formica and quartz as a combination of this kitchen. One is the quartz on the island with the undermount sink. It is a design feature. It says wow, okay? But it's also kind of cool that the place where you're gonna be hanging out and having fun and cooking is a different countertop than the back because it really says this is a different station. The cab owners in the back, in order to save a lot of money, we're going with a Formica. We're doing it like a bar top, so it doesn't have the return backsplash. And it's going to have the same detailed overhang on the front. And it's going to be an imitation granite look, which is going to be awesome. Now, we haven't selected the actual countertop yet. We want to see everything in place first. But the point is this, I'm going to save about $1,500 on countertops just by doing the back 2 stations that are really only there so things don't fall in the cabinets. You can put things on it and storage. I don't want to spend that kind of money on it. I don't live in a house where I'm going to get that value back. So I'd rather put that money into awesome appliances than an awesome countertop that hardly ever gets used because the action in this house is going to be all right here. Just another note, because this is an island, the back of this island, we're going to have a flat panel put on it. Now, I was out yesterday shopping for some stuff with my wife and I forgot to communicate these bumpers. That's for when you're installing against a wall, as well as the brackets. So we actually have to remove all of those before we put these in place. It's nice to use the edge here as your nailing surface. Can't do that with the brackets and the bumpers in place. Matt, can you give me a hand with this? Don't actually hold the feet. Flipping it. All right. And turn it around because the doors are going to open in. There we go. Put that one here. And the same with this one. Okay, that goes at the end. There we go. Okay, now, here we go. Okay, now we are installing a 9-foot island, and this one is 4.5 feet. The other 4 feet and change is going to be a dishwasher that's facing this way, and then we're gonna have at the end here, we've got a 2-foot deep wine fridge facing this way into the rest of the room, so that it's accessible by all the guests coming and going and milling around through all of our multitude of house parties that we never have, but will when we're done this kitchen. Never had people over in the old kitchen. Oh, Barely even wanted the family over here back then. All right. We have a design with a 10-inch overhang, which is the minimum that you want. 12 is more comfortable, but our room is not quite deep enough for that. So we're going with a 10-inch overhang. All right, and it's nice to have 40 inches between your cabinets. Everybody designs with a 40-inch distance between your cabinets. All right, the reason for that is just a comfortable distance, especially with the overhang. Remember, we're going to be adding doors, and then the counter will go a bit further than that. So if you stand directly behind me, we're going to be butt cheek to butt cheek using the kitchen. It's a little awkward, just a little. So because we screwed the feet to the bottom of the cabinet, I can do that. If I didn't, they'd fall out and the cabinet would fall on the ground. This is why we did it, so that we can get things in position. Wow, even with that, it's a little precarious. Now that's 42. That's a little closer to what I want. Now, pick up the other cabinet, slide it into place. Put that in touch with that. One of the questions I get all the time is, can I install my cabinets on top of finished flooring? And the answer is, yeah, sure. But if you wait until your flooring is done to put your cabinets in, then you can't measure for your countertops until everything is done in the entire room. And that'll delay your whole project. So although it might seem like you're getting ahead, you get the illusion of getting something done without actually getting anything done. Okay, and this just takes time and patience to do this, right? I mean, the traditional space for a dishwasher is 24 inches. And then usually you'd have an end panel. In our case, we're going appliance back to back with another appliance. So because we're putting out a quartz counter, we need to have finished panels in place for the measurement, because we're going to have a 24-inch dishwasher, which requires a panel, which is structured to carry the load. And then this side panel will go here, beside the fridge, which will carry the weight. And then we're going to have a fixed panel the whole length of the island on the other side. All that in place, they can measure the countertop with just these two panels in place. So we're just going to get a couple of L brackets, screw these together so they can get their dimensions. That'll be all we need for now. So Matt's putting the rest of the feet on the front of the cabinets. We can get those leveled off. Our trick there is our wall is actually sloped, the outside wall. It's a really old house. So setting it against the wall on that rail doesn't make the front level at all. So we'll have to use those feet to make that adjustment. But here I've got to add my 48 and 5/8, okay? 24-inch appliance, 24-inch appliance, plus a panel, 48 and 5/8, plus this, plus an end panel will give me my total measurement. It's a little bit crazy. So I'm basically looking at 54, let me do the math here. Like I got 54 inches in cabinets, 48 inches of appliances, and then a 5/8 gable end between the appliances, and then a 5/8 gable end at the end of my cabinets. Wow. All that comes together to make 90, 102, 103 and a quarter. All right, so that's my total measurement. Half of that is 51 and a half, 51 and 5/8. So my center line on my cabinets is 51 and 5/8, right? 51 and 5/8, but I have a gable end still, so I'm going to mark it at 51. There's my center of the island. So I've got the measurement of my cabinet, 54 inches. The measurement of my two appliances, 48 inches. I got a 24-inch fridge and a 24-inch dishwasher. I've got a 5/8 gable panel between the appliances and a 5/8 gable panel on the other end. That gives me a total measurement. I take half of that, 51 and 5/8. The gable end is 5/8. It's not installed yet, so I'm measuring 51 inches from there to here, using a marker to put my center line on here. That's now the center of my island. And the reason this is important is I have a pendant hanging out of my ceiling because I've measured and mapped out this already, and it's exactly center. So what I want to do now is take this whole thing and put it center. Okay, now I have a cross laser line. Let's look at the ceiling. I want to get that cross line right in the middle of that box. That is actually darn close. So now I've got my line exactly in the middle of that box, and it throws that same intersection on the floor because these lasers are in little windows off the side of the box. Okay, Isn't that brilliant? Like, let's just face it, without that gizmo, doing this is a lot of work. You gotta get a plumb bob and a string and a ladder and hold it up there, and then someone else has gotta come by and put a dot on the floor. This is working on your own at its finest. Now the center line of my cabinet is 3 inches. I'm gonna transfer that information down here. Okay. So, now the center line on my finished island countertop is directly underneath the center pendant light. The only other consideration now is that pendant light where I want it? Now, remember, I've got 10 inches to the edge of the counter. So that means when you're sitting here, the light is coming down in front of your face and lighting up your food. And from this distance, at 5 feet, the diameter of that light should be about 3 feet. Okay? That's about 18 inches. At 8 feet, it's a 5 foot, because light shines out of these lights like a cone. So I'm saying this is going to be perfect. I'm loving it. I'm at 42 inches cabinet to cabinet. After I add the doors on both sides and the overhang of the countertop, I'm still close to 40 inches, which is ideal. With this 10-inch overhang here, all that's left to do now, set this in place, adjust my feet so that everything is level. Whew, this is going to be very cool. So you'll see I got a 1/2 inch to go. I just reach down here and grab the leg, all right, and I just twist it until the cabinet lifts up. Okay, don't do too much in the first round because there's a bit of a lever action and you'll go to adjust too much and then you'll be back there lowering it in a minute. All right, there we go. Now we can get a better look at it here. Okay, and we'll just work our way around the island. Every one of these feet adjusted to where they need to be. This is the benefit of this system, because it doesn't matter how uneven my floor is at this point. My finished surface on my counter is going to be perfect. When you're installing quartz or granite, you need it perfect, because you don't want the stone sitting flat and then falling down, because that's going to be where it cracks. And any good quartz or granite guy, when they come to install it, will refuse installing it if you don't have your cabinets level. So once you got your cabinets put together, everything's leveled off, laser lined, you want to screw the cabinets together now. Now, because this is Ikea, resist the temptation to use any of the pre-drilled holes, because the same hole is going to be in the cabinet on the other side. There's nothing for the screw to grab, and your screw is going to be in the way of any hardware you might add later on. So I know lots of people will show you put clamps on and all that kind of jazz, but I like to go about 3 inches down, 3 inches in, drive the screw straight, and just hold the cabinets in position. Now, this is 1.25 inch screw. It's a flooring screw that I'm using. There's also cabinet screws that are 1.25 inch and they're stainless steel, or they're steel. And there's also a particle board screw that you can buy that has a coarse thread. I like these because it has the coarse thread and they're so much cheaper. And I can also use them for installing flooring. Now, if the gap doesn't close up properly, take the screw out and then drive it a second time, and that will take care of the problem. Done. Now let's go through this. We built it, we've hung it, we've installed the feet, we've leveled it, we've measured our gap, we've got it all nice and leveled out for our countertop. The only thing left now to do is to put our 2 gable pieces together in the position they're going to be going and map this out, and then we're ready for the measuring. We got an hour to spare. Woohoo! If you've never done this before, install all your cabinets and get it all finished first before you call for the measurement. Usually the measuring guy from the cabinet company can be out there within the next day or 48 hours. So there's not a lot of wiggle room there. Don't put that kind of pressure on yourself. Look at this, they got a little hardware in here. Oh, isn't that nice? Cabinet screws, the right depth with the pan washer heads on it, so I can screw these on. That's so nice. I'm gonna keep these. Just a little information about countertops while we're at it. If you are doing this for the first time, you won't have a regular installer, which means you don't have a relationship. So you're gonna be subject to their availability. I recommend, first of all, I'm gonna have in the link in the description a company here in town that I use, okay? But most people don't live in Ottawa who are watching the video, so here's what I recommend. Find yourself a cabinet or countertop supplier who can do the quartz, the granite, and the Formica. Get it all done in one place first. Find someone that has that material in stock. Now, the laminate countertops, that stock can be delivered even if it's not in stock within 2 days, okay? So that's easy, that's UPS. But the stone, the quartz and the granite, if that stone isn't in stock when you are ready to order or have your counters made, the process for ordering natural stone counters is as follows. A, you pick out which color you want. Now, if it's quartz, it's easy. It's man-made, it's very consistent, it's exactly what you want every time. If it's granite, you're gonna wanna go to a place where they've got the slabs in stock so you can pick your slab. And they'll actually let you go through their inventory, well, the good company will, and select which slab, and if necessary, even which half of the slab you want your kitchen cut from. That's the kind of flexibility you have when you're ready to order and put deposit down at the time you're shopping. Now, you can go first and shop and establish your slab. I recommend doing that first because you want to have that information when you go buy everything else for your kitchen. Secondly, your deposit's down, it's in stock, you're good to go. As soon as your kitchen's done, you can call them up, have them measure it, and they'll put it in the queue for processing right away. And it takes about a week before that product is ready to be delivered and installed. If you wait until your cabinets are all installed and then you go kitchen countertop shopping, you're running into a problem because then you're picking the stone. Is it in stock? Is it the right size? Are you gonna be disappointed? Are you getting what you want? If it's quartz, is it still in stock or do they have to wait for another delivery? You can be running 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks until you get your product. So I always suggest go shopping early in the process, pick out your stone, put down a deposit, hold that piece of stone for you. Now you've got the material that you know, so you can select your flooring and your tile and your paint colors and everything else. It's all in the video that we're gonna make about the whole process for shopping and selecting. So you can click this link right here, we'll have a card. You can check that out as well because that's gonna save you a ton of money. Always important if you're shopping on a budget to follow a process that helps you from the most expensive unit that will basically dictate every other decision you make. That's the countertop. So the gable ends, you gotta go to the store and get some hardware. These little inside corners are all you need. Little L brackets. Now, I like to always have my stickers on the inside, so if you see your sticker, you know you're on the inside. Now, you don't really need 4 of these bad boys, do you? Traditionally, these panels are designed for being installed past the hardware and the rail to the wall surface, so they're actually wider than you need for an island situation. So you want to keep that in mind. You want to have this extending past the edge of the cabinet, the same depth as your doors and your drawer faces, which I have right here. So I'm going to put my panel flush with the front of the cabinet, and you can see there's my door. Right? This I don't want sticking past that. So I'm actually going to go to 24.5, so 24.25 inches for these panels. Okay. So I wrote down the width on the piece of tape for later. Once the guy for the countertop measuring is come and gone, I'm going to take this apart, cut down my width of my panel and the height of my panel. And in this case, it is 1 5/8. For the purpose of measuring, I'm going to install it here. But when I actually put it together later, I'm going to install it like this. Because I'm going to buy a 24-inch door to go on the front of this, on the front of that panel, as a decorative feature. Okay? To make it look like a fake door. That way it'll line up a lot nicer. But for the purpose of measuring a counter, so that we don't confuse anybody, we're going to just attach this so that we get our outside measurements for the whole counter and they don't mess that up. Now, the way we're going to do this is just take some L brackets and tape. We're going to tape these in place nice and flush and run our screws all through the tape. All right. That's why that is important. I'm using soffit screws. They're just really tiny. They're 3/8. Not designed really for the wood, but if you push hard enough, you'll make good contact, and you don't want to come through the other side, which is the most important part of this. Remember, the other side of this panel is visible when it's all finished, so you don't want to take a chance of screwing that up. All right, now this panel goes here, and this panel goes here. I'm just going to use a little bit of tape to hold this outside corner together. Done. You're going to start screwing. Now this seems like an awful lot of work to go through to kind of arbitrarily attach this for now, but I know these cabinet guys. And they hate taking measurements until everything is in place. The truth is they'd rather all the appliances were installed as well. But I don't care, because every one of these guys does the same thing. They come out here, they'll do their measuring, and then they're going to make me sign off on it. And they're going to make me take responsibility for any of the mistakes that are made based on measurements. So if I'm going to take responsibility for it, I would rather just say, add the other 51 and 5/8 that I've got measured on my wall. And I don't have to go through this nuts, but for the purpose of the demonstration today, I'm going to show you what you're going to expect from a cabinet guy who isn't going to be very nice and play ball with you like that. Because then most likely not going to be very friendly about you having this in the wrong place. So here we go. Now I can establish my outside corner for the end of my island. So here we are. I'm putting this in position, and I'll tell you why. A lot of these countertop guys are bringing in a laser level system, and they want to have a position for the laser clips. They'll put a clip here, put a clip there, and so on. And then they'll turn on the machine and automatically detects the location of all those clips and does all the measurements and puts it in a diagram in their computer. That's why if you don't have the outside edges established, the computer's got nothing to work with. So I got to use this, and I've got to put a 5/8 something or other over there off the edge. And what I'll probably end up doing is grabbing a piece of plywood, and I'll just screw it to the outside of this cabinet for now. That ought to solve that problem. And then the computer will automatically add the overhang. So that'll take care of it. So now I'm established. Actually, I'm ready to go because I've got 24 inches plus 24 inches plus this gable, which is actually going to sit in between the middle. This actually establishes the outside dimension of my island. And if I'm right, all of this, I'm at 102.5 right now. And if I add the other 5/8, 103 1/8, that's about as close as I'm going to get today. Now when they're measuring your countertop, they're going to throw an extra inch on each side, so you have a little bit of variance, a little bit of wiggle room. The important thing is here, now that this is established, we have one last chance to make sure that we're happy with the location in the room. Not just the depth here off the back wall, but also other features like when you're walking around the outside of the island. So, great opportunity to throw a box on your counter, 5/8 plus an inch, and add your overhang at 10 inches. Whoops. And then you can imagine what your room is going to look like all finished. So now you're coming in, you have lots of space, you're not feeling cramped. So I have my 40 inches exactly to the wall. That is perfect. It's the same distance you want in between your counters, you want between your counter and your wall. That's cool, so then I don't have to do a great big sweeping corner on this thing. That would be brilliant. Now, if this is it here, I'm going to end up with 39 finished cabinet, counter to counter. Close enough. I'd rather have my 40 at the outside corners. I'm ready to go. Now, if you're installing a kitchen with upper cabinets, just remember, really the only secret you need to know now is use the same rail system. Set it so the distance between the bottom of your upper cabinet and this cabinet includes 18 inches. Okay, for your backsplash, which is your distance, plus the thickness of your countertop. And once you have that established, you can hang all of your counters making sure that you use a laser line off of things like off the stove to get your uppers and your base cabinets all lined up perfectly. And that's about all you need to know. So there we go. How to install the kitchen cabinets from Ikea. Whew, just in time to get it measured for countertops. Can't wait. Once they do that, we're gonna move the island out of the way again, finish all of the sanding, priming, painting, put the flooring in, put the cabinets back in, and by the time they're ready to come with the countertops, this will all be finished. And that makes this a 2-week flip. Way to go. Last steps, when you're happy with your location, lift these bad boys up here, get those feet in. Whew. Once you have your feet in, you take these little clips that come in the hardware packages. Now these clips arrive in the box with the hardware that goes on the back. So make sure you're not throwing little plastic parts like this out because it's key. The back of this is a half moon shape, okay? That is exactly the same as the hole here. So this round hole lines up above your hanging rail and it creates that half moon gap that's left. So you slide this in place, okay? And then you take a flathead screwdriver and you turn it this way. And that locks it in place. So this hole right here actually translates by going like this. Slides underneath the rail and it passes up. There's a gap behind the rail and it actually gets right there. That holds everything nice and snug together. You can also twist it with your fingers. And the screwdriver does a better job. Wow. Now the last thing we have to do is cut this metal tracking off that's in excess of what we needed. I've just put on a simple metal cutoff blade on my grinder. These blades are like $3. There we go. Yes, we don't need the screw in either. It's hard to tell if I cut through. Oh, there we go. There we go. That doesn't matter. We're going to put that panel here. That's it for part 1 of how to install a kitchen. We're using Ikea. I happen to love them. I think they're a great price point and quality is top notch for that price point. And make sure to click here. You can see part 2 of the kitchen renovation series that we're doing on our 1880s farmhouse remodel. Wow, this has been a lot of fun.